Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So, over the past few days, I have gone through a lot more content and found a few more things to actually cover in the story. So, we've already reached the point where they have started their training. Now, obviously, there are some objects that need to be talked about within the training. I have glossed over quite a bit in the last section. I ended up overdoing it with the explanation of how crazy Bam was, outlining those key issues with how crazy powerful he is something which is really important for the story, because a lot of people overlook it. They think Bam is just powerful. He's not just powerful. Bam is insane. And if you don't think of him as insane, here's the things that you have to think about. When he stops that attack of Shinsu, it's not like he did, not Shinsu, sorry, that attack from the gun. It's not like it was just some minor little inconvenience. The amount of power he showed rivals Rankers, right? It's a Ranker type ability. It's an irregular ability for a regular to have. That is what makes him so special at that early part in the story. And we're still not yet even at a critical point, because we're going to go through the training. Now, obviously, I'm not going to beat around for too long, so let's get back to it. So the moment we get back to the training arc, we start off with Endorossi in chapter 31, where she is ordering her meal, and we find out a little bit about her, because she doesn't eat meat to try and keep her figure. And she goes and she's ordering, and she realizes that her food is mixed up with Bam's. At this point, she goes to go and take it back, and Bam basically forces her to sit with them, and she ends up sitting there and she tries to make him friends with Huts, and she's basically being pushed on it, and she says she's not allowed to date in her family. We find out a little bit about the Jahad Princess program, and basically she doesn't believe in boys and girls being friends, that they have to be platonic. And then we get Anak saying, it's such a shame to see the daughter of Jahad with these guys. And everybody reacts, well, you're also a daughter of Jahad, you'll have another sister, Yuri, and basically they ask little questions about it. Thereafter, we get to see the fisherman's lessons. Now, they've already been going for lessons for a while. This floor isn't a one day story. It's a whole lot of lessons before they take an exam. So they get this whole lesson about being fishermen, and the fisherman teacher basically has the special test for them so they can get their ranks in and their positions. And this is the one where they're going to have an elimination test so that they reduce down to 8, right? So she gives them this whole thing about how they have to fight this, what they need to do. And the fact that if they fall, the protection isn't 100%, and that they could get hurt really badly and cause them to fail the exam altogether. So at this point, Anak goes crazy and does the stupidest thing ever, where she attacks Endorossi. And the reason why this is crazy is Endorossi is still far more powerful than Anak. She basically messes around and beats Anak non-stop throughout this entire fight. And in the end, we do know that she ends up dropping Endorossi, and we know they end up knocking out multiple people, getting some points. All of that being explained is just a small thing at this. It actually ends before they fall off, by the way. So yeah, we get back to the next episode in 32. And in this one here, we get the lighthouse teaching. So basically, he goes through the basics of it with them. So Liraro is teaching them the basics of how to work a lighthouse. Kun goes ahead and he gets well ahead of where he should be. He starts messing around, and basically he goes to what a light bearer should be. And he goes and he looks at Anak Jahad, he finds out a little bit of information about her. Then we get the whole fight between the two. And he's the one who says that only chosen princesses can be given a 13-month weapon. That means she's a Ranker, but what is she doing here if she's a Ranker? And you get it, that's what we're given. The test continues with the fishermen. They start hopping around and knocking off other individuals. And finally, we get the point where we were really looking for, where Anak and Endorossi end up getting knocked off the ring when they are busy fighting with each other. And that's how they both go down, because Endorossi takes her with her. we do get a little bit of interaction between them for the fact that they aren't in Nice because it's Princess of Jahad. The fall down hasn't happened. We get the knockdown of Anak at this point, and then after this year we're going to get the whole story about the King of the Tower. So we get the whole story, had a number of princesses and they had to kill each other, and they would get the 13-month series weapons, and they were just basically adopted daughters given the power in a way, but none of them had Jahad's blood flowing in their veins. They weren't allowed to marry another man. They could not give birth to a child. This was to prevent the power of Jahad from spreading. So sometimes a princess would misbehave and break the rules, and they would say that a shoe jumped out of the case of the king, and that's what would happen. Now we know a lot more about the princess system than what was explained at this point. So nonetheless, we get that whole story, and that Anak Jahad, the real Anak, not the one who is claiming to be Anak, had a child with someone, and that child is the one who is right now claiming to be Anak. And she got away with Anak Jahad's weapon, the Green April, and that she's most probably in the tower for revenge, and that she needs to make sure that she understands something. Her mother was in the wrong, not the other way around. And Anak goes through a memory in her head of her and her mother, and the fact that her mother married a pastry cook, and that she had a big mouth and that she would say things recklessly, basically a very similar personality to Yuri. And we get all of this, and then finally Anak fights Enderossi one more time. At this point, she keeps missing, and she finally breaks the heel of Enderossi. And then as she's about to fall, Enderossi grabs her hand and says, "Please save me." And anyway, she pinches her hand and drops her, and then Enderossi pulls her down with her. And the test teacher was like, "What in the world are these two doing?" And everybody else was just sitting still because they didn't need to fight much more. There were just 9 on the field. The two end up hurting their legs, they end up talking, and they speak about whether Anak's mother regretted anything, and she says basically she's here to avenge the pie cook who her mother loved, and that's the reality behind it. We get the hint that a guide had taken her away from her mother to protect her, and that's how it goes. And the guide, from what we can tell, is Yuri's guide, Ebon Edrock. So yeah, we get that as the hint of it. It could be a possibility. It could be another silver-haired dwarf. That's the name of that type of guide. So we end up with the next the next chapter, which is chapter 34, and that's the balloon popping for the wave controllers. So they're all shooting Shinsu in a certain density to pop the balloons, and Baam's density is crazy. He can pop 2 balloons. You can't control the power that he's releasing. It's just going crazy. And they're talking about how crazy it is, how fast Baam has advanced, and he explains, Lauria explains that he's been giving special lessons to Baam because Baam helped him out the other day when his pillow was taken from him. Right, and they hear that Ho gets really frustrated at this because he's going to lose, because there's only 2 qualifying wave controllers at the end of this, and because of the amount of advantage that Baam has received, it doesn't stand a single chance. So anyway, Baam is being coy, and he's talking with Khun, and Khun basically explains that the 2 princesses are going to fail, and he says, "Isn't there anything we can do to help them?" So Khun explains to him that every time he does better, somebody else fails, and you can't help and save everybody. If there is someone who is a god at the end of the tower, he can ask him why he did this and what's the whole reason behind this. So nonetheless, they go through it, and finally Khun gives in to Baam, and he just gives in to his plan to make friends. So they figure a way to get the Princess of Jahad to become his friends. And he uses one of Merum Barandina's tools, the Suspendium Orb, which can work as a reel. So basically, if Rossi wishes to get food because she has a broken leg and the medical fee is basically cleaned out her points, if she wants food, she has to become a friend with these guys. And basically, they fight with each other, and she ends up trying to steal the food, but Bam takes it away. And basically reveals that Kun gave a very simple way to do it. Simple lines, simple things to say. And then after that, we get Rossi saying that she always comes first. She's never ever not been first in her life, and blah blah blah. And after that, they end up going at each other, and she gets knocked on the head by the tray. This is the point at which she starts to get feelings towards Bam. This is because a lot of things are played in this year, and we get into the next scene where we get to see that Rachel is buying takeout, and it's 10 points more expensive to eat takeout instead of getting along with the group. And basically they're having this conversation about Yuriha, and they say that she's called the Effenberg of Jahad. Now, Effenberg is a soccer player who had a habit of being a wild card, and basically Bam keeps defending Yuri, saying that she was a nice person, although she did kick him at first sight, because the first thing that she ever did to Bam was kick him in the face. So yeah, that's one of the realities of it. And we see Rachel moving out, and we know what's about to come down when she goes into the bathroom with Enda Rossi. They talk, and they're using the fake name, and she says you don't have to use the fake name, and it's just the two of us. And she says, okay, of course, yeah. So if I had someone who cared about me the same way that he does, I wouldn't be hiding myself. It's an advantage. She also explains that whatever she seeks at the top, she hopes it's more valuable than Bam. And that just is a hint of how much she really likes Bam. And she thinks to herself, she could just end this whole thing and just tell him right now, because he already knows. It's pretty much clear, because his first friend's name is Rachel. He didn't write her as Michelle because he knows it's Rachel. One of the things we hear is she's a tomboy, she likes to lie. We got all of that there. You already knew that there. Then we get the whole sense for Shinsu, for wave controllers. A bang consists of mu, that's the consistency. Then there's su, which is another thing, which makes it up. So mu and su, the amount of power and the amount of duration it can last for. The consistency of your Shinsu, that's how they describe it, by those two qualities. And they basically go on to explain the whole situation and how wave controllers who can control more than one bang are really powerful. And Ren, as his really explains that if he had to fight Bam and he could use 3 bang and Bam can only use 1, Bam would be at a massive disadvantage, because he'd have to find a way to match the power of the other 2. And even if he could outpower the single one that he's counteracting, he still can't evade the damage that he's going to take from 2 shots from a wave controller hitting him. It's just a little hint of the whole idea of, power and strategy and skill. And we see that Bam can actually materialize a second bang. And he says it's difficult, and it's like growing a second limb. And we get this whole thing that it took Ren 2 years to realize his second bang. That's just materializing it before he could even start controlling it, and people called him a genius for that. Bam materialized it in a matter of weeks. So what would that make him? Super genius or king of genius? That's one of the things that Ren says. And basically, your talent is something that anyone going up the tower would be jealous of. Remember that. So that's what Ren wants. And we see Ho looking around and seeing that it's strange with how strong Bam is and how quickly he's advancing. He's not even part of the 10 great families. And what do you think he's hiding from us? And we don't even know what Bam is hiding. Bam doesn't even know what he's hiding. And we see that Ho goes in for his test, and he starts to concentrate, and he overdoes it, and he ends up breaking his bunk. And he tells him, you don't want to overexhaust yourself, because if you do that there, you're going to fail the next paper. We get the little history of what happened with Ho when he finally learned to control a bang, and how the monsters came and they ate everybody. And even with all that power that he had, he couldn't do anything besides let them eat everyone around him. And then he gets that mysterious note about how to get rid of Bam, and nobody will suspect it, since he's after Rachel, and if he hurts Rachel, Bam will stay behind. We get the whole story about Ho being coy, trying to brush off the fact that he got that secret note. We then move on to the next episode, where finally it's time for the test to be held. So basically, Leraro is asking you, what is this test? In the final plan for the joint position test, let's see. Hide and seek with the ranker, that's unheard of, that's ridiculous. And then we got Quant saying that he's going to be the seeker for the hide and seek test, and we see Leraro thinking to himself that this is a bad idea. And he's thinking that all of these kids are gonna get killed just because you're a crazy coffee addict. And he thinks to himself, if only he could say that, and he just bangs his head down in shame. So they come to the whole point where they get to take part in the test. The teams are outlined, and we know exactly how they end up getting separated. We also get the early qualified who have already passed this test, who will take part in the final test, being Rak and Ghost. We're then told that everybody else will be fighting for their positions. There will be exactly 2 wave controllers who will qualify in the end. We know that there's going to be a number of scouts who qualify. There'll be 2 light bearers or 3 light bearers. They're going to qualify another spear bearer or 2 spear bearers, I'm not sure. And that the teams have been balanced out in other ways besides an exact 1-to-1 count. And as I said, this is a fair assignment, because where they're missing one player, they get another player in their position for each team. So right then they said that everybody is going to be graded by the teachers, and as a whole with everybody together with Director Yu. And they explain to them it's hide and seek against the ranker inside that special zone with the safety zone. They explain the basic rules of it. This is also another crazy thing for you to think about. And Shibisu basically explains to himself how crazy this would be, and we finally get them in the test, and we see that in the safety zone they're safe, and they come up with an idea on how to play it, and they basically elect Kun as their leader. And he says, yeah, so then how about we win this year, because he's going to expect us to run away. Why don't we set a trap and steal the badge from the it? So basically the whole idea here, if we know the whole part of the story, is actually for them to pass the test with doing fantastic things that would have won them the test, while showing the other team what they need to do to win. Also, Kun already knows that Laure is going to, that Ho is going to attack Rachel, and he has made a plan for everything from start to end. Everything has to play his way if he wants to win, and he basically gives the whole crazy thing where Shibisu is playing the bait, and all of a sudden we get this whole thing with Quant, and he shows up out of nowhere, and he's going to test everybody. He wants to do it, he wants to show off, to say that he is all that great. Now I'm going to explain what happens in them, and then I'll explain the overall point of view. The second team is watching as they go through their test, and they see that the ranker found them already. It's too quick, it's crazy, they're shining the light, they're giving away where he is, and they go at it, and Quant gives them the lessons, and he decides to activate the special power Blackfish. Blackfish is a power that's used to actually hide a scout from light bearers, so they can't detect him. And he instantly knocks out the lighthouse and is about to knock out Shibisu and hurt the rest of the team, when the second lighthouse shows up and he realizes that they actually intended to try and steal everything from him. So yeah, nonetheless, he plays this whole trick and he pulls them down, saying that it was a big mistake. And he's really angry, but he decides he's going to act a little bit big and he's going to give them a head start. He doesn't intend to let them win. He just wants to give them a head start so he can test them once more. So, just to show that he's a ranker and that they're a little bunch of kids. And basically they say he's trying to play it coy. They laugh at him. And basically... So basically, Shibisu says, is his mercy really only worth 2 minutes and 13 seconds? Because the 30 minutes is necessary for them to get far enough away. And basically, they're all glad that the regulars didn't instantly all get killed because they tried to capture Quant, and Quant would have taken it as a massive insult. So he already knows that there's only one route they can use to get away in that time. The other route is too far away. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a ridiculously difficult trip, and that it would take them exactly 32 minutes to be at the bridge where he could catch them and easily take them down. Plus, he could test everybody on the way before they even made it to the end. And this whole thing goes down. We see the whole fight with the team as they try to slow him down at every point, every person playing the right role. The spear bearer playing the fisherman role and getting himself beat down. Just for by the way, the person who plays the hulky guy with the wings is the same guy who shows up in season 2 during the, what would I call it, the workshop battle arc. Obviously that's another arc altogether. We have to get to it. It's still far down. His name is Amigo. And yeah, this is the same guy, Pumden, I'm suspecting, right? So anyway, Quant heads up, he tests the whole load of them, he knocks out everybody, because he still had some of his Shinsu left from when he did Blackfish. And he's only allowed to use one bang, and he can only use it for one thing basically in this entire exam. Right, so we get the whole idea, everybody's in place, the delay team is already knocked out, and they're running, and basically they say the test is over, she's going to get caught on the bridge, she doesn't have enough time to get across. Even with Quant taking his time and knocking everybody out, they definitely going to fail. So nonetheless, everything plays exactly the way that they expect it to. Shibisu fights Quant, and Anak runs down the bridge. We get the whole hints of story between Anak and Shibisu, all of this. It's important in this season, but it doesn't have much more beyond this. And we get Kun playing his little trick in this section just ahead. So basically, Quat beats them up and he throws the regulars aside, and then he's off on his way to go grab Anak. But they have a little joke with Lira Ro and Ansang Yu, where basically they laugh at the fact that Quan says he was trying not to kill the regulars, that's why he's been taking it easy on them, and he's laughing at it because they know that he can only use one bang, so he can't use every technique at his disposal, but he still could kill them. It's just that he's been taking it easy a little bit. It's not that he really was taking it seriously. And yeah, basically that's the whole story, and they end up going through this. The next thing which we get is Kun gets to play his trick, and the ranker reaches him, and we just get that little hint, Maram Barandina. So he takes it into an invisible mode, and Quant sees that he's facing Kun on the bridge, and he's shocked. He expected to see the fisherman. So he asks what's going on. Is she in the bag? Open the bag, and basically, he demands it. At this point, Kun says that he couldn't do that there, and he can ask test administrators. They've already made sure that he couldn't downsize anything in this test, and it couldn't be duplicated with Maram Barandina, the badge. At this point, Quant thinks about it, he looks around, he decides then what in the world is going on, what is he playing at, and basically he tries to tell him to stop lying, and he says that Anak jumped is a jihad, and basically he's antagonizing Quant. It's one of the tricky things about our guy Kun over here, is a sly shark, and yeah, that's the way that he likes to play things. So yeah, this is the end of the chapter. By this is episode 40. So they go at it, and he basically says, so you know what, where's your second lighthouse? I see one, but I know you can control two. So yeah, she's sitting on the lighthouse below, and he basically hints that he knows that this is the trick he's trying to play. So he says, do you know what will happen if both of us jump off together? Your lighthouse will fall after you. So all three of us fall down, and he can survive it. He's a ranker, and he grabs Kun and he jumps down. And then we get Kun playing his fantastic level skill with this whole crazy thing where he just lets go of the ranker, and he's like, do you really want to die? And it says Maram Barandina visible mode, and we see that he played with the suspendium orb, because the reason why Quant knew that the lighthouse was there was the buoyancy of the lighthouse means that Shinsu has to flow from the user into the lighthouse. That's how he knew it was being used. But Maram Barandina's little reel that he's playing with is actually pure suspendium, so it doesn't require any Shinsu to hold it up. So the whole rope that he had hidden was absolutely unseeable to Quant, and Quant fell prey to a regular, which really pissed him off, because that was a massive way of doing things. At this point, Anak gets back on the bridge and she starts running down. Now we have to stop at this point, and there's a lot to actually talk about when it comes to this chapter. In terms of the facts of what we have seen here, we've seen Kun apply his genius to the whole situation. We've seen the power of a ranker versus these regulars. We saw why it's outrageous that they're actually versing a ranker to start with, and we got the hints that things are way out of control. Things aren't going to go very pleasantly if they keep up this type of a method. So yeah, we get all of this here just here in this little show in this chapter, and this is one of the first things that we have to learn about what's going to happen up the tower when things get more crazy. So I'm actually going to cut this one a little bit short. Obviously, there's not a lot to talk about besides what's going to be spoken about in the next one, because that's where the test actually ends and the manipulation of the second half of the test begins, which is even more important than this. So yeah, we will be going through everything at the end of that one. It might be another extra long episode. So catch you all then and have a good day.